Often can come with a wee bit of controversy and a wee bit of debate, which is healthy. So what we want to do from tonight is, rather than us facilitate, it's you people sharing your thoughts, your ideas, having questions, just in that great debate. At times we may put you into breakout rooms, so to have chats and then come back with and feedback. Have you got a post-it, Mark? Yeah, so Mark's going to put up a post-it, so when you can put your thoughts, your questions, your comments on that, and also use the chat. So feel free to use the chat. We'll be watching that all the time. And if you're firing up questions, we'll see what we can do. We'll point you in the right direction. Otherwise, don't be afraid just to wave. All good? Cool. So big thanks to Christy Norman, who's going to have a chat about a few points around the importance of consultation and using the Navigating the Journey resource. And Marcia Ferguson from Lockhill. Thanks, Marcia, is going to talk about their whole school approach. So that would be awesome. Thanks, Marcia. And later on, I'll have a chat about the journey that Hidden Bush have been on, just setting up their key learning guidelines as a great way to consult with their communities. And apologies, obviously, from Nick from Hidden Bush, who's at a board meeting tonight and can't be here. So thank you. So just for a start, and feel free to unmute yourselves when you talk. Where are you now? Where are you now as a school? If you want to raise your hand and talk about it, or you want to put it on the post-it note, be even better. So I'll just give you a minute just to go with that. So where are you now? You just go in here if you want to.
I'm happy to just talk, Richie, while people are typing. So out at Winton School, we've branched out now. We're teaching RSE. We started initially with our year 7-8 kids. And we used to get Evelyn Mann out. And then I did some PD on the Navigating the Journey resource. And I became the teacher that taught it across our 3 senior classes. We still get Evelyn out to do an information evening as like an expert. Our parents tend to respond to having the expert come out and kind of reaffirm the program we're running. But we've now branched out to year 5-6. But because of the content in the year 7-8 program, I still teach that across the 3 classes, and teachers release me, 1, because they're not overly comfortable teaching it themselves, and 2, we just want that consistency in the message. But 5-6 is taught in the classrooms. I'd love to go lower as well throughout the school, but we're just not quite at that point yet. Yeah.
Really good points. Thanks, Nicole. I think that's quite typical, actually. I think most schools, when they start on that journey, they do start with year 7s and 8s or 5s and 6s and work back. And I think if you consulted with your community, that's where they see the most need, especially when you think about the sexuality side of it, and puberty and things like that. So yeah, that's really good. And I appreciate you sharing that. Just see some of your. Sorry, go.
Sorry. At Wyndham, I'm Emma, and this term I'm the teacher in charge of health out there. We've done a community introduction of it because we did a whole school-wide of keeping us safe, and so parents were very much they thought it was sexuality and relationships, and so we had to talk them around and said that this module here, and I got Jodie out from Active Southland to help us along with our principal, and that we guided our school to that, and how the Keeping Ourselves Safe program is different from the sexuality and relationships, because parents have been getting that really big mixed messaging of what all the sexuality education and out here, what their beliefs are and stuff like that our way. Yeah, they're hearing lots and lots of things, and they don't want some of it taught out our way. And so we're looking at next term, because we haven't been doing it for quite a while out our way with our year 5 and 6. And so next term, we're looking at doing the relationships and sexuality program with our year 5 and 6s for the first time. So we're sort of at that real first stage of getting back into it and trying to find ways to get our community and everything on board.
Anyone else add to that at all? Especially that around that community connection?
Yeah, so at Tauno School, I've just added a little note there. We've sort of flipped our puberty stuff on its head, and we used to always do it in your traditional term 4 when, you know, the children were getting towards that, especially in the year 5, 6 space. But as the year 6s were getting ready to move on to college. But what we've done now is we've actually changed it. This was our first year doing it, where we've taken our RSE teachings to the beginning of the year, and we've incorporated it into our sort of traditional ME unit. So we've changed that all around, and it's now like a unit based on relationships, but bringing in the RSE teachings as well, using navigating our journey, but also Te Whare Te Whā, and just broadening it. So we're learning about ourselves, but also how we're going to change and develop over time. And that seems to be working relatively well, doing it at the beginning of the year rather than at the end.
That makes sense, Dawn. Yeah, and it's not something you can really teach in isolation, is it? It's
no, not at all. And that's what we sort of thought, is actually integrating it into that whole, you know, learning about ourselves and setting up our classrooms and building relationships. That's where it stems from, and just learning about each other as well.
Yeah, I like the way you talked about that. You know, your Te Whare Te Whā, that well-being foundation.
Yes.
And that's something, once again, it should be in everything you do, shouldn't it? So, yeah, great work. It's great to hear. Yeah. Cool. Let's see a few of the comments there. So we do want to about using navigating the journey. So we'll talk about that shortly. And someone haven't covered it since COVID, and talked about consulting in term 1 and teaching in term 2, term next year. That's really good. Mrs. Norman's name coming up. That's great. Using a guru. But, so that's good. So lots of great ideas. So thanks for your points. They're really good. Hopefully as we go through, we'll better people talking will better answer some of those questions or add value to that. Just another post-it pad. You're good to go, mate. What do you see are the barriers to effective RSE teaching in your school? So if you just take a minute, and Mark will share the post-it pad, and you could fire them up as well. So what do you see as the barriers to effective RSE teaching? All good. So you just fire them on there now. Or if anyone's got any comments they'd like to share about, you know, verbally, about any barriers you've got. No. Just working on that poster pad right now for you.
Can I just talk, Richie? But just because the post-it notes aren't working with our internet connection, that's why you're at different school and I'm at home. But some of the barriers for us is like we did our community consultation at the end of last year, and one major thing that came out was that the RSE was quite low on my parents' priorities. But the mental health sort of side of it, which is why we started to go down the Mighty track, was at quite high. And probably from that, and also we've not long had Herald and Life Education, and we had quite a few parents that were worried because they're hearing what's in the media and things like that. So the media is a barrier. And it's for us to now just try and navigate all of that, really. I'm lucky tonight, Courtney's my presiding member, and she's actually on this webinar or Zoom with us, because we've got to try and navigate, as it is, navigate the journey, but it's just trying to work out the right track to go for our parents. So yeah, I'm just not sure how to deal with that yet.
I think, to be fair, a lot of schools are in that space. Yeah, and it's awesome you've come along, Courtney, because the consultation is it's a board role. That's something the board has to do. So yeah, great work. And hopefully, I think as we talk through today, there'll be some ideas come through about what effective consultation looks like and the benefits of having it. So yeah, all good.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kay.
Yeah, interesting to hear if like when we do our community consultation, because REC was part of our whole PE health and PE consultation last time. This coming up time or next time, do we just focus on that area? So that's where we're at. Yeah.
We're a bit nervy too. We always send out letters before we start teaching that just outline the program. We name everything. We outline what we're teaching. But with what's been happening with the high schools and the meetings within our community around the controversy, and yeah, we're just not sure how to, like, we've not had complaints in the past, and I think I've been teaching it across our senior classes for the last 3 years, but I think, yeah, I'm wondering if there'll be a shift this year and if there'll be more people coming in wanting to see the planning, and that's fine, like I'm happy to share that, but probably a little bit more nervous about it this year than we have been in the past.
I think that's fair, Nicole. That's really fair. Just a thought, if you go to page 2, on the bottom right of your post-it pad, you'll get the second page if people want to post notes up there. And that's really good points, Nicole. I think you sort of ended that consultation is the key. And I guess you think about it as a no surprises, approach. So no secrets, parents know what's coming up, and then they can make the choice whether to withdraw kids or not. Cool. So we've got some more barriers coming up. Any other thoughts from anyone else?
So hi, I'm Tania from Drummond School. So we were thinking about maybe looking into it for next term, and then likewise just sort of what's happened at the college. Just we'll steer clear for now. There's discussion amongst quite a few of the community members, and when we did our health and PE consultation last year, the ranking of what was a priority and what wasn't a priority likewise was all around mental health, well-being, all those things. I think that if the heading hadn't had the word sexuality, the misconceptions around sexuality as being something that we're going to teach them sex, there's all these misconceptions, whereas the big focus is actually relationships and changes and things like that over time. And so I think it's instantly put up for a lot of families, those barriers. And then I think the concern around what we're being taught. So my biggest concern too is actually knowing the material well enough to ensure that what I cover is what's allowed to be covered, because invariably it's the questions that the kids put in the box that are the ones that are left field, that that go on the verges of grey and things. Consultation. But I like Gianna's idea. It might be that we do consultation next term. I was the one who wrote about doing it term 1 into term 2, but it fits really well after listening to that sort of in that first term when we're looking at all those changes and new friendships and learning about ourselves and things. So yeah.
No, thanks, Tam.
Food for thought. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's interesting what Richard, you put while balancing it with all the essential areas, but also dealing with the views of all your community, understanding those and being equitable and fair, isn't it? But also recognizing that you have got to, it's one of the 7 key learning areas. It has to be taught, so
Absolutely, Richie. So when you and Mark came to visit me, I talked to you briefly about some of the more vocal parents that come to community consults will have maybe more traditional views, and that's their opinion, of course. But as a school, we try to stay balanced and objective and teach inclusivity, and that's, we find that a real trick to get the balance right.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. I think that's probably fairly general, Richard. You know, especially in some of the bigger schools. So, no, thank you. Cool. Anyone else got any more thoughts there?
I was just having a wee browse through our evaluations from our senior teachers, and a bit of a common theme was the sort of the size of the navigating our journey resource. So it's, you know, it's quite wordy and it was quite in depth. So just trying to, they found took them a little bit of time to simplify their lessons and their teachings.
Yeah, no, really good points. So what I'm sort of hearing is the main barriers are your teacher confidence, and you let it advance the way it's called relationships and sexuality. As soon as you hear sexuality, the flags go up for a lot of people. The media portrayal, and obviously what's been happening in quite rightly makes some people nervous. That community response, it brings a real emotive side to it. You know, every teacher wants to do a good job in front of their kids and get it right. But what is right in my eyes might be different to what is right in Mark's eyes or in Christy's eyes. So really, really good valid points. And you know, you talked about the size of the resource. Yeah, it can be daunting, but hopefully, as Christy talks about that shortly, we'll better bring some value to that as well. So thank you. So if no one's got any more comments, I'll hand it over to Christy, who's going to inspire you with her brilliance and expertise. So thanks, Christy.
Can I use yours? Hi there, everyone. Cheers.
Got some technical issues here.
Hi there, everyone. So I'm Christy. I have been teaching sexuality education for about 20 years. I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I've taught it at lots of different ages. I first started teaching at Mount Ingham, and then went to Southland Boys, where I was teaching it up to year 11, and then I went to Lochiel, and then dipped in, and now I'm at Lime Hills. So I've been asked to talk to you about consultation and the resource, and then to cater for your students. So there's a massive thing about consultation at the moment, about obviously what's in the media and what's happening at the school and central. Consultation is extremely important, and my personal opinion is that having a night, a parent night, solves a lot of problems. The whole gender issue at the moment is massive, and a lot of us, it's new, so a lot of parents don't understand it themselves. So with them not understanding it, they then build that barrier up and they panic about it. So by having that consultation with them and answering their questions right there and then, you're lowering that barrier for them, and yeah, it makes it an easier process. As daunting as it is having parents come in, I do believe it is a really good way to iron out a lot of issues. Obviously, quite a few of you might have done letters. If you've done letters, they're fine too. But it's just making sure that the parents know what is being taught, so that there's no secrets, there's nothing to be hiding. It is out there for them to look at. The letters that I have put out in the past have stated what we are covering, all the topics, and stating that they can come in and see the resource. Always have the resource there available for them to look at. but never send it home to the parents. I have had a few requests at schools that parents want the resource sent to them at home. Don't do that, because they don't look at it the same way as we do as teachers, and they will go into panic mode. Yeah, the whole sexuality thing with parents, they hear that sex word and go into panic mode again, but it's such a massive, sexuality is so massive that they just need it explained to them. And that's why I'm big on having face-to-face parent consultations. I personally believe it needs to be a separate consultation, not done in the health, the rest of the health and PE consultation. It needs to be separate, and it needs to be done not far away from when you're teaching it. So if you're at school, sorry, I don't know who it was, but talked about doing it in a consultation in term 1 and teaching it in term 2, that's fine. I'd be doing the consultation towards the end of term 1 and starting it first week term 2. So it's fresh and they don't have too much time to go into panic mode. It is all about making yourselves available to have those discussions with the parents. As much as you as teachers, some of you are going to panic mode about teaching it yourselves, the parents are going to do exactly the same. So you need to make yourself familiar with the resource before you have that parent evening, so that you feel confident whether you are or not. And that's, yeah, it makes it a lot easier. Are there any questions about the consultation? Nope. Right. Yeah, so when it comes to the resource, do you want to pass me here? The resource is actually amazing. This is what it looks like, the front of it. You can get them from the family planning website for $5 per resource. And it starts from 0 to 2, and then 3 to 4, 5 to 6, and then 7 to 8. The good thing about this resource is it's actually taught at high school as well, right up to year 10. So it's a really good consistency right through from a very young age right up to year 10 at high school. As much as people have said that the resource is massive, it really is massive, but half of it is your resourcing. And if you do your resourcing, if you teach it from your device, a lot of it are links. So you just click on it and the pages come up to be viewed on a TV or something like that. If it is feeling daunting to you, make yourself more familiar with it. So whether it's a bit of bedtime reading, making yourself familiar with what's happening in each section. Having taught this, well, about 15 years I've taught this particular resource, I've never taught the whole thing. Never once. Purely because I am catering for the children that I have at that time. And sometimes I feel that they are not age appropriate, mentally appropriate, like any of those things, ready for some things. So I don't teach it because the kids aren't ready for it. I think it'll cause more issues than anything. So for example, today I taught 2 hours of sexuality education at my school. And one of them was about intimacy, and the kids were quite naive, and so we didn't get into half of it. We didn't even talk about, like, the most intimate thing we talked about was kissing using a tongue, and they were mortified, absolutely mortified. So it's about knowing your class, knowing your children as to what you teach them. If there are areas that come up that you find of more of a concern, so there's been a time where we've had pornography issues at a school. So I have gone into quite a bit of detail on pornography, and I've skipped something else because it wasn't of need for those children at the time. The good thing about it being a 0 to 8 unit is that we can, whatever you don't teach one year, it'll get picked up the next year, because the kids will only pick up what they need to know at that point of time. So if they're not going through puberty, then they won't pick up half of it. So that's why it needs to be taught every year. Yeah, so you guys know your kids best. So you are you are the best ones to work out what needs to be taught. And that's where your parents can have a conversation with you as well. If there's issues in some area, then it can be brought in there. But the resource is amazing. And the fact that it's all there for you, you don't have to do any planning whatsoever. If you're using a screen, then you literally click on the links. So whether it's a video, one of my classes, we did consent today, so it brought up the consent song, and so we all sat there and sang the consent song. So it's very, very easy to use. It is literally getting it there and just having a play at home to, work out how you, what you need to click on and how to get it all up and stuff. But it is very easy. Having taught sexuality education for 20 years, it would be the easiest resource I've used. I do understand that people use Herald, the Life Ed bus, to tick this box. It does not cover 3/4 of the stuff that we need. Okay, so yeah, knowing your children is massive. So at the moment, I am going into a completely different school that I've never taught at, and I'm finding it after 20 years of teaching it, I feel like it's my worst teaching of this unit because I don't know the kids. I don't know their names. I don't have that relationship. I don't know any background information. You guys have already got that on your children. So you've already got that connection. You've got that bond. And teaching the unit, it's actually quite fun because it breaks those barriers down with those children and you actually build up a better relationship with them. To me, I would love it if own teachers taught it to their children, to their students, but I understand that there is a big stigma around it and no one wants to teach it, and the teacher confidence is low, but there are people out there to help. Evelyn Mann, I've used her quite a bit in my past, but yeah, there are people that will help. Any questions?
Oh, Chrissy, can I just say something? We didn't end up buying the resource. I did one of the family planning online.
Cinnamon.
You should be. Can you hear me now?
No.
I'll write in the chat.
Can you see everybody's face?
No, still can't hear you, Cinnamon.
Is that better?
Yeah, still can't hear you, Cinnamon.
She's muted.
I think you're muted on your screen, Cinnamon.
She's not muted because I could hear her.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I wasn't muted. Can anyone hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Oh, yeah.
I can hear you, Cinnamon.
Oh, so
Can you hear me, Cinnamon?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Yep, I can hear you.
Yeah.
You're coming through loud and clear.
You're good now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you can?
Yep, you're good now. Thank you.
I did the online navigating the journey PLD through family planning, and you actually you don't even need to buy them, Chris, you end up given them. But that was a really good way to actually really understand the resource. They go right through it and talk you through, the different parts and that. And I found that really valuable too. But I still haven't taught it.
No, I agree. I did a full day in-person training. And the other thing I also found useful was watching somebody else, like before I took the leap and started teaching it across our senior classes. Actually, we had Evelyn in and I worked alongside her to kind of just so I was confident. So if you could observe other people or that's always helpful too.
Yeah, that's actually a really good thing to do. So that's what I'm doing at a school at the moment, is going in and helping them. And I teach one lesson a week, and then the teacher teaches 2 other lessons during that week. But it is a really good way to do it, just to get the basics of how it's run. And then it builds the confidence up that actually this isn't so scary. The kids are reacting fine to me. So yeah, it does bring down that barrier and makes it a lot easier watching somebody else do it.
And another thing too, like I've seen cases where you did it different, Christy, where your team taught with a teacher for some lessons, so just to help that support network worked really well. So no, some really good points. Yes, Christy.
No, I'm all good. Unless anybody's got questions, I can pipe in whenever needed.
Cool.
So
Awesome.
Christy, oh, sorry, Richie. Hi, Christy, do we just start with the older kids? We go to year 7, 8, or do we do it right through the school? So I don't know a lot about it and keep putting it off. So I just want to know where the starting point would be.
Well, the whole idea is that we need the year 8s to know, because they're going to go to high school and it's a really big step up from primary school to high school sexuality education. So the year 8s definitely. But what I've done at Lime Hills is I've actually started at year 5 and 6. So we're doing year 5, 6, 7 and 8s, because my personal opinion is that you need to be teaching them earlier so that when things happen to them, they've got an informed choice and informed decisions because they know what's happening. It's kind of too late when, you know, the ambulance is off the cliff kind of styles. So personally myself, I would be going 5 to 8 if you are just wanting to start, but in a beautiful ideal world, you'd be 0 to 8.
So just on that, we teach across the school, so at Tano, and it is incorporated into like our Te Whare Tupawha right at the beginning of the year, but it's also our school values. So we're like linking into the relationships and learning about ourselves and things. So you can do it, but we sort of teach it depending on what aspect of Te Whare Tupawha that we're teaching at that time, and yeah, sort of incorporate it that way, and that works quite well. So it's a beginning of the year time thing.
Because the bonus thing of the 0 to 4-ish is that it is just relationships, it's friendships and stuff like that. So that is coming into a lot of your other health areas. So it's not something that needs to be taught specifically standalone by itself. When you get up higher up to the school, then yes, it does, because it gets a bit more nitty gritty and a bit more detailed. But yeah, definitely 0 to 4 can easily be put into normal classroom and school learning.
Cool, thanks, Christy. That's awesome. So just the key points taken from Christy is consultation is key. You can't over consult. Not doing it as part of your health and peer consultation, that's not enough. It's not rigorous enough. Having the hui as well as your survey or whatever you do, so that you can answer those questions that do worry parents. So really important. A no secrets, no surprises approach, so they know what's going to be taught without actually sharing the unit with them. So then they can make their own choices. And teacher confidence is obviously a biggie. But something like Nicole's talked about and Dawn too, about what you can do to support teachers to be confident. And as Christy alluded to, teaching kids is going to be much better rather than a cold start, so to speak. So thanks for that. Well done, Christy. Thank you. That's great.
So just on another thing, when you're doing your parent consultation, there might be some parents that will come in and ask you those awesome questions that no one likes. So I was at a school a couple of weeks ago and had a tricky question, and a mother was pretty determined to put an end to it. And I pretty much just turned it back and said, if you have the right to take your child out of these lessons or part of them, that is perfectly fine. I'm not here to tell you you have to, but who is going to teach your child? And so if I'm not going to teach your child, then who is? Who are they going to find this information out from? And I said, it'll be from their friends, which will not always be correct, or the internet, which is not always correct. And she backed down pretty quick because she then worried about where her child was going to learn it from if it's not from a structured environment of a classroom.
Cool. Cool. Thank you. Any other questions? Any other points to make? Beautiful. Thank you. I'd like to hand over to Marcia now. Marcia from Lochiel, who they have a really effective whole school approach to how they teach it. This area. So yeah, over to you, Marcia. Thanks for helping us out.
Thanks, Richie. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Cool. Thank you. Christy, you covered so many of the things that I was going to cover anyway. So thank you. It was quite interesting because, Christy, our experiences have been quite similar. I've taught health up to year 10 in South Auckland, and did the family planning training right back when I started teaching year 10 health about 20 years ago. That was fantastic in the Newmarket family planning offices. So this is something I'm quite comfortable teaching. But looking at the differences, and Christy did mention that when you're looking at teaching the Navigating the Journey resource, you have to look at what is needed for your students. You've got to know your students really well. When I was teaching it in South Auckland, I had a number of families who had whawhawhine or takatapui family members, not so common in Southland. So not something I would be covering down here. And also, Christy, you mentioned Harold. I think often teachers rely on Harold teaching the sexuality side of things and relationships, and we can't do that. Harold comes one visit a year. We know our kids. Now, we do things like Christy mentioned, the not sharing the resource. We also, as teachers, we do a weekly update with our parents. So they know that this is what we're going to be covering, this is the learning outcome, and a vague sort of outline of what the lesson is. So the parents do know what's going to be covered each week. Along with that, just looking at my notes here. Actually, that was something interesting. Someone mentioned in the notepad about one of the barriers, the questions that the kids ask in the post-it box. One thing I learned when I first started teaching relationship and sexuality education was making sure you clarify what the kid's actually asking. And just to lighten the tone a little bit, I had a kid asking me when I was teaching in South Auckland, year 5, what is doggy style? Now, automatically, I just went, oh my God, I'm not prepared to have this conversation. Luckily, I'd been told to, clarify, ask what they're wanting. Turns out we'd also had swimming. They actually meant dog paddle. Nothing. So I was so glad that I clarified that one. We consult with our community before we start. We don't, however, and Christy, I really like the idea of actually making sure that we do focus on this aspect of health education, not just the overarching health and PE curriculum. All of our staff at Lochiel have had the family planning training. Some of us have had it 1 on 2, as the case may be. I've done the training a couple of times, and had 2 facilitators working with me online last year when I went through it again. Now, we've mentioned the links that are used as well. I've had an issue this year. I've taught year 7, 8, Navigating the Journey for the past couple of years, now leapt down to the new entrants. So I'm doing the year 1 and 2 Navigating the Journey, and I have had an issue with some of the links. However, when you do have an issue with the links in the resource, you can just type the link into YouTube and it will come up. But if you just click the link, sometimes it does come up and say that this link isn't available. Doesn't mean it's not there altogether. So at Lochiel, we do follow it. So we've got the new entrants to year 2s in one class. However, because of our class sizes, we do have year 2s some of the year 2s in a different class. We have the year 4s in a separate class, so they drop down to the year 3 group. So we do have that. But then I talked to my wee dots today and asked them what they particularly enjoyed about having the year 2s come and join us, because I've got some of the year 2s, but obviously, not all of them. They enjoyed spending time with the kids from the other class. They enjoyed playing the games and learning to work together with the other students, listening to the stories that teach us, talking about the things that they're good at. Because as Christy mentioned, when you're looking at navigating the journey in the lower levels, it is all about their relationships. It's about them identifying what their strengths are and actually being proud of who they are. Whereas when you get up to the year 7, 8 level, you are getting into the more nitty-gritty side of things. Yeah, so we do cross over. We do have a little bit of movement. We are covering, navigating the journey right from our new entrants to year 7 and 8. But as I've said, each of the teachers have gone through the family planning training, which, even though, like as Christy mentioned, the resource is really, really explicit. You don't need to do any thinking. It's right there. But you do need to be familiar with the resource. You need to check that those links do work. You need to check also whether some of the stories that are in there may not be right for your class. So you listen